Hey, hi everyone. If I'm audible, please can you say hi, maybe in the chat box? Hello, I'm not audible. Uh, is it audible now? No. Sorry for the hiccup. Time of going live on YouTube. It- Okay, great. Is it? Thank you so much. Wanted to confirm. Thank you. Okay, so let's start. Start. Minute more, please. Uh, uh, Started. Okay. So again, welcome everyone. So today we're going to start with the. Today we're going to start with Python. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it will it will improve, right? Okay, let's try. Let's just start now. Okay. So today is Python. Okay, Python. We are starting with Python today, and today is day one of Python. Uh, what we wanted to cover, right? first of all, let's first understand like what Python is. Okay. Now, what Python is, Python, if you see, right, you check the net, you would check the net like what is Python. We all know that Python is being used right across everywhere, right, because of this AI boom, right? So, what is Python works and how we can work on Python so that we can make the best use of this and get into and tap on the opportunities which are there, right, for especially for the estates in the AI field, because most of the libraries in the AI, right, are around this Python ecosystem only. Okay, so what we should do is like again, but before starting with anything, right, let's first understand the history of Python. If you would go with the history of Python, you would find that Python currently, if you check the Python version, right, it is this. You would see this is the official side of Python. This is the official side of Python, and if you have to download, right, you have to go and download this. If you check this version, right, it says 3.13, right? So majorly Python, if you would ask people, they would show you, they would tell you that Python is divided into two parts, right? One is the legacy way, which is called as Python 2, and the current version, or the version which is used by the everyone, is Python 3. Okay, but Python 3 has been in the market for very long, right? Python 3 came into the market in year 2008. Today is 2025, right? 17 years almost. But why? But why Python? So Python existed from a very long time. But why is it gaining the traction now? Is it all? This is all because of the data engineering, right? The big data and the AI boom and everything, right? So this is what has resulted into the Python, right? The boom which we all see. Okay. So again, so let's get started. Like if you wanted to work on Python, right, and wanted to learn it as a language, what you should do. So first of all, we need to have this downloaded, right? But what are we downloading? What are we exactly downloading? So let's see. Let's understand this. So to understand this further, right, I would like to show you in case of this figure. Okay, so this is Python Day 1, right? So what we have to understand is what is Python, right? So what is Python and what we have to download? What is Python and what we have to download? Okay, so if you see here, right, we are on this site python.org. Now, when I'm saying that you have to click on this and download this, right, and the version it shows is 3.13.7, 3.313.7. When I'm saying this, right, what are we really downloading? What is it, right? To understand this better, what we have to do is, let's make a comparison between Java and Python. So for the people coming from the background of Java, right, they understand that what we do is we create files in .java, right? If someone asks you to write a program in Java, you write in .java, right? And then what you have to do is you need something to run this file, right? You need something to run this file. What is that something? There is a compiler involved, right? There is a compiler involved. And what happens is, and what is this compiler called? In case of Java, this compiler is called as JAVEC, right? JAVEC. And once this is compiled, right? So who is compile? So once you compile this, what do you get as a result? You get a bytecode file, right? You get a bytecode. The extension of this file is called as .class files, correct? It's called as .class files. Now what happens is, like this is like a mid layer, right? This is like a mid layer. What you have to do is, this is like the compiled version of your code, right? So this was your source code. This was your source code. This was your source code. You used a compiler called JAVEC in Java, which compiles it into bytecode, which is a .class file. And what happens after this is, you need to give it to someone to execute, right? What is that something? That is called as JVM. That is called as JVM, right? So this is the one which runs your program, which runs your program, okay, which runs your program, right? It runs your program, and it executes this, right? Now if you have to compare this, like if you have to now understand Python, now it should become easy. Now let's say what happens in terms of Python. What we do in Python is we create file with the extension as .py, okay, .py. So now you can call it as your source code file. This is your source code file. Now what you need here, right? What you need, what you need is you need something, right, to run your Python code, right? What is that? What is that part? That part over here, right, is called a translator, right? A translator, there are many words for it. You can call it as a translator, you can call it as a runtime environment, you can call it as a, you can call it as an interpreter, right? Interpreter, right? You can call it anything, right? Any of this. But what exactly is happening, right? What exactly is happening? See, if you would ask anyone in Python industry like how Python works, they would say that Python.py is your source code, is your source code, and you give it to your this interpreter, right? You give this code to this interpreter, and it executes. It just executes. It executes. Okay, it just executes. So what is happening is this middle layer where the bytecode was getting generated is missing in Python. You see this part, right? It is not generating dot bytecode. Why is that? Why does it say this way? I think okay. So why does it say this way? So this is a question. Okay, this is a question. Like why is this happening? Okay. Now to understand this, right, we will see it practically, and then I think it will make more sense. What is happening here? To start with, right? Let's first download our Python. So if you go here, right, go to the python.org and click on download, and you will see this, right? Download for Windows. Since I am using a Windows machine, I am getting this. Click on this, right? It will start downloading an installer. Okay, it will start downloading an installer. You can think of this like you're downloading a JDK, right? If for I mean, if you have to compare it within the terms of Java, you can think of it like you're downloading a JDK. But we have different names and everything, but I'm just trying to give you a comparison. Okay, so let's try to see this, right? Now if you see this file, you can go there, right? You can go there and then just start running this. So you need this, right, to run your Python code. Without it, it will not work. In some of the systems in the current situation, right, what happens is, okay, so I already have the setup, so it is asking me that do you really wanted to install this, modify, or what, right? Let's say I will say modify. Okay, so I am saying all this, and next let's do one thing. Okay, but it's a very simple setup, right? You just need, it's a exe file, you just double click on it, it will install, right? It will install. So let me just cancel it. Are you sure you want to cancel? Yes. So you can just double click on it and run through the process, and it will download, it will install the Python for you, right? But what exactly is getting downloaded, right? That is something which we need to understand. That is where my point is coming. When you are downloading that software, right, and you run it, you are downloading a interpreter, right? You're downloading a interpreter, or whatever you call it, right? You're downloading something, this, right? What does it bring with you, right? What does it bring to you with you? It brings three things to you. First of all, it is bringing a standard library which Python can support. Okay, which Python supports. Which Python supports. What does it mean? In Python, whatever syntax you use, right, your system needs to know whether it's a valid syntax or not. It needs to understand all of that, right? So how does that work, right? It works because this interpreter has that, it has that documentation with it, right? And from it gets to know, okay, that the thing is, that the code you're writing is correct or not. Okay, that is one thing Python works on. Okay, this is one thing. Second thing, standard library. Second thing it provides is the interpreter, right? What is interpreter? Interpreter does what, right? We have two things, compilation and interpreter. Interpreter is like you convert the thing, right? You convert a line of code, one line by line, and then you run, right? That is what an interpreter is. What does the compiler does? Compiler does what? It compiles the entire code at one go, right, and then runs it. Okay. So what we are saying is, when you have downloaded this thing, right, when you download this thing, a Python here, what you're getting is you're getting an interpreter. Okay. And what does it bring with it? It brings a standard library and the other libraries, right, which Python works on. Second, it brings this interpreter, or you can call it like it is bringing a runtime environment. You can say this way, runtime environment. Okay. And along with it, it also brings Python virtual machine. So you are getting three things in total when you download this thing, right? Okay, I have not given a name to it, right? What is the name, right? What you're downloading? See, again, as I said, you can call it like any of these, but there is, when you download from this website, right? When you download from this website, it is called as that you are downloading C Python. Now, this is another terminology to understand here, right? What is C Python and what exactly is getting downloaded? So if you see this, right? If although it does not say this, right, but what is happening here is it is downloading C Python. What is C Python? C Python, you can call it, it is one of the distribution of Python. Okay, Python. Now, so this C Python is containing all these three things inside this. Okay. Now C Python, why this is called C Python? See, what happens here is, like, if you write a code, right, if you write a code like this, let's say I'm writing one code, print hello world. Okay, I'm typing print hello world. If you're writing this code, right, if you're writing this code and wants to run this, right, how will it run? This code will be given to this interpreter, right? This will first of all check whether the code you're writing, right, is correct or not. Is it as per the Python library or not? Okay, is it as per the Python library or not? Once it tells you, right, that this is okay, so this, its work is done. Okay, this work is done. After this, what happens here is that the syntax is checked, right? Second, what happens here is that it goes through this interpreter part, right? So what happens here is, uh, I think, let me show you now. I just saying about this. So let me first create one file, right? I have it installed, right? I have that file installed. Let me create a file now. File. All this file is, let's say, my file.py. I'll do is I'll file as okay, my file.py. Okay, let's save this file. If you see, if you see this here, right, this is saved as .py extension, right? .py extension. Now this signifies that it's a Python file, right? It's a Python file. Let me open my CMD. When you open this up, right, let us first check that what version of Python I have. How to check this? You can check this by typing Python version. You can type it like this, right? Python hyphen version, or you could type py version. When you do this, right, you see that there are two ways to check the version, Python and py. But if you would see, right, it is giving me two different versions of Python. Okay, now this is another thing to understand why it is happening. Now, just to throw some light on it, what happens here is this py, right? If you use this CLI thing, right, py, what does it do is, currently my system has three different versions of Python installed. It has 3.11, 3.12 and 3.13, right? What does py does is, py finds automatically the latest version by itself and then works on it. So let's say if you have three different, or let's say many different versions of this, what you can do is just call it with the py, and it will make sure that it uses the latest version, right? The most latest version for the system. But if you use this Python thing, right, what does it do? It is now dependent on the path setting which is there in your environment variables. So in my environment variable, if you would see, there is there the path which I have set over there is of this version, right? And so because it is getting that path from there, so it does not know about 13 3 or 13 using this part. Okay, so again, so you might get confused, you might be confused, right? Which one should I use, Python or Py, right? If you have only one version, so then if you have only one version of Python, then there would be no difference. Okay, but if you want to just make sure that you have multiple versions and you want to use the latest version, my recommendation would be use this syntax py. It automatically detects latest version and uses it. Okay, but if you want to restrict yourself to the path which you have set, then use this one. Just for instance, if you see this, right, let me show you. You go to this PC properties, and if you go to the advanced system settings, environment variables, path, edit, you see, right, it has this 3.12, right? So this is the path which has been configured for the Python. That's why when I'm typing Python version, right, it is picking up from my environment variables and telling me that I have this version installed. Okay, but if you do py, right, it will take the latest version, it will find the latest version automatically from the system and try to print it out. Now, okay, so this is one thing, right? Now if you see this, right, now let's move ahead. So if you see this, right, I have this file now, right? Now if I have with the name of C Python, I have it, and now I want to run it. How to run the file? What you have to do is you have to write py, right, py, and then give the file name. So I'm already in the path location, so what I will do is I'll just give the file name .py. If I run this, right, if I run this, see what will happen. It prints, it executes my code and directly shows me hello world, right? It shows me hello world directly. Now you have to notice this, right? In this folder location, if you see, I still have only one file, .py file, which was my source code, right? Which was my source code. So if you see, that interpreter, that C Python, took this file and it did not generated the bytecode, right? It did not generate the bytecode. If you would see in your Java case, right, in Java case, there is a mandatory step that the code needs to be compiled first, right? You have to run the Java compiler, whether you do it or ID do it, it has to be generated, right? Let me give an example. If you're using IntelliJ with your Selenium Java framework, right, and you run it, you can just go back and check. There is a target folder generated by the ID where .class files are placed in that folder, right? So that is a mandatory thing, that those bytecode files needs to be generated. Only then those files would be given to the JVM to execution, right? But this is not the case for Python. You can see in Python it is not generating that file, it is not generating a bytecode, it is directly picking up this code and then running it, right, and giving you the output. This is what is happening, right? But is it that simple, right? Is it like it skips the compilation? Does it skip the compilation? No, it does not. Okay, it does not. It's just that it does not show you. Okay, now just to give you the perspective, understand this, what is happening. Now if you go back, right, how things works in this case, right, what happens here is this py file, right, is given to this interpreter which I am calling as C Python. Okay, which is C Python. Okay, and what happens here is the code gets compiled. Okay, this code gets compiled and it generates, or I should say there is a compiler, let's not say, because C Python is all three things combined. Okay, all three things combined. Let me just say there is a compiler which would take this file and generate you another file called, there is a .pyc file. .pyc file will generate this file for you. Okay, .pyc, or there is one more extension in the current versions which generates. So this is like your bytecode. Now this bytecode, what happens here is this is give, there is a sim, like in case of Java you have JVM, right? In case of Python you have PVM, Python virtual machine. So what happens there is this bytecode is given to this PVM, right, to execute, and this is what is responsible to execute this. So again, see this, right, this compiler, this PVM, and the library, standard library. All of this combined is given by the C Python. Okay, the C Python, which we have downloaded from the Python library. Okay, now you would ask like, okay, I do not see this pyc file is running, right? So what happens here is by default, Python does not generate bytecode, right? What it does is it internally manages it in the memory, generates that file, right? Does not show it to you, but it does do this process and then executes it. Now let me, so because the default nature is this, right? What it does is it just take this, is doing this, that it is doing this part, right? It gives us the impression that it is doing this, but no, inside the hood it is doing this part only. Now let me show you, like, if you want to see, right, the real picture, what can you do? What you have to do is go, come here, right, in this file, in this folder location, you see there is if I go back, right, you see this is only one file, right? There is only one file. If I have to generate that compiled code, right, that byte code, how can I do is I can write this command py -n. I think there is a command called py compile, and then you can give the file name. My file name is myfile.py. Okay, myfile.py. If you run this, now let's see what would happen, right? What would happen? This would compile your code, right? This would compile your code. So see here, you see now there is a folder. There is a folder called underscore pycache, right? Pycache. Now if you open this up, right? So okay, what happens here is, when, so internally what Python does is Python creates this folder, right, and it keeps your bytecode inside this. Now go there, you will see this file, myfile.cpython-313. What does it indicate? It indicates that this file has been generated by as a bytecode, right, as the bytecode using this C Python, right, and the version of the Python used is 313. Now if you want to check the content of this, right, you would find that it contains garbage. See, it's the compiled code, right? It's something which I mean, this is for the intermediary part. This is not human readable content. But let me show you what does it contain, so that you understand, like, there is something happening in between. You can see this, right? It generates this kind of a code. And if you would compare this to Java, right, this is same. Even in Java, if you do .java, if you compile that file, you get a .class file. Go and check the content of that file, you will see something similar, right? Now what happens here is, this file, right, this file is given to the Python virtual machine, right, to run, and that is where the execution will happen. Okay, but what happens in case of Python is, Python does not Python by default does not generate this. It keeps it in the internal purposes or in the memory, right? But that process, that step is there. Okay, that step is there. Okay, now, okay, so this is one thing, right? So first of all, I just wanted to draw this comparison, right? That Python works very similar to how Java works, right? But it does not makes us feel like this way. Okay, so that is one thing. Now if you see, so this is one part. Now coming back to this part, right? C Python. Why this is called as C Python and what exactly it is, right? I said that C Python is one of the distribution of Python. What does it mean? What it means is that if you download Python, right, if you download Python from this site, okay, from this site, you are downloading that interpreter, right, which can do all the stuff, right? And that interpreter, right, has been written in a language called C. Okay, so this is a C language. So if you see this, you see this code, you see this, right, whatever the C Python is providing, this standard library, this interpreter, right, and all these have been written in C language. Okay, and let me tell you, this is the default and the most used distribution, right, most used distribution across the world. Okay, even if you have Python in your case, you would see that you are using this only. Okay, but what are the alternatives you have and why do they exist? Okay, we need to be also aware about that. So if you would see, right, there are multiple alternatives to it. There is something called PyPy, there is something called Jython, there is something called, I think, there is I don't know, like, I don't remember, but there is something for .NET also, .NET Python, something like this. right? Why do these exist? Why do these exist, right? See, what happens here is, like, this is one of the distribution. So what happens here is, whoever implemented this, right? I mean, the team of C Python who have developed, who have implemented this this specification documentation of Python. What they've done is they have implemented in their own way, right? And they have chosen the language C to provide all of this. Now someone in the Java domain, right, decided, okay, I have the specification documentation of Python, and I know like what all I need for Python to work. So what they did is they used Java to achieve all of that, right? Why would they do this if this already exists? what what is the main purpose of Jython, right? Let me just show you what is Jython. So if you go, I mean, you don't have to use it, you have to still only use this only, but you need to understand the ecosystem of Python, how things are really working. So if you see Jython here, right? Jython, you see this? Jython is an implementation of the Python programming language designed to run on the Java platform. On the Java platform. So it means that what is happening here is, with Jython, if you are using this implementation of Python programming, what you can do is you can run your Python program on JVM. Think about it, right? You can run things, you can run your Python code on JVM. Getting the point? Why would someone do it? Someone would only do it if they wanted to connect or take the advantage of the integration of the Java libraries with the Python code. Okay, so why would someone use Jython? If they have a use case where they wanted to club the libraries of Java with Python, in that case they would use this distribution which is called as Jython. Similarly for .NET, similarly for Python. Okay, so there are different distributions, but when it comes to our case, right, where we are learning this from the SDET perspective, what I would say is you do not need any of these extra alternatives. What you can simply do is you just need to get this thing right from Python and consume it, and that's it, right? So the process of getting this is very simple. You just need to download this, right, and get this running, and it will work, right? Now what we'll do is, what we can do next is, so we got one thing, right? We got, when you downloaded this, you got the language, you got the you can say you got a Python development kind of a kit, right, where you can do all of this. Plus you got a compiler, you also got a PVM, right? So you got everything so that your Python code can work. Okay, great. Now should I start writing my code only in this editor, which is this notepad, or should I go and type or everything here, right? No, right, this is not how we work, right? As if we are working to provide some code, we need an editor. So what editor we should use? What my recommendation would be, since most of us, right, are already are switching from Java to JavaScript and TypeScript, right, and I'm sure most of us would be in a habit of using VS Code, right? So for Python also, right, we should use VS Code. VS Code provides you the capability to run your Python code with the help of some extensions. Okay, and it's a very good editor. It's a very good editor. It's a very lightweight editor. So you can just use that part. So now the next thing which I will do now is we will download the editor. Okay, the VS Code editor. Now to download the VS Code editor, what you should do is go to the website, right, and let's just find this Visual Studio Code download, right? You can go there, although I already have it, but I'm just showing you how this works. You can just go there and download this, right, as per your wish. Okay, and again you just follow the path of making sure that it is executable, and you follow the installation process. Once you get this, right, once you get this, you will see something on your screen like this. Okay, Visual Studio Code. Now click on this. Now click on this. It starts, right, it starts this. Let me open a new window for us. This. Okay, so let's open the folder. My folder was this one, right? So let's just copy this. title folder with the path. So this is the folder we have, right? Let's click this. Okay, so we got a folder, right, where the Python file already exists from that perspective, right? Let me just delete this. Let me just delete this again. We'll start again from scratch. Okay, so this is down, this is gone. Okay, this is gone, should be gone. This, hope no one is using. This is gone, right? Now we have a blank slate, right? We just have a blank folder. Now what we'll do is, with this is our editor, we have opened a folder. What we'll now do is we'll click on this. Let's click on this file. Now again, we are just today this is the first day and we are just trying to learn how to run the Python code using VS Code. Now what we'll do here is we will just give a name again. Let's say just my file 2.py. Okay, again make sure that you have extension of py. This is there, right? Now I have GitHub Copilot installed, so you might see some extra text here, but please ignore it. Okay, so what we'll do here is you have .py file, right? .py file. Now if you want to run it, right, I mean, let's write some code. So if you see this, right, I'm typing the same code which I wrote in that notepad, right? But this is Python code, right? I'm using the syntax of Python. This is print method and I'm providing the code which I need to print. I'm printing hello world. Let's save this file. Save this file. Now how to run this file? Again, one of the ways, you have .py file, go to the terminal, open a new terminal from here. So you will see something similar to like what we get from the command line. I will change this to, let's say, command prompt. This is now the same thing like you were getting from the CMD. Okay, we are on this path, Python. This is the folder. Now if you want to run the file, you can just say py and then give the file name, file2.py. okay, now based on what kind of interpreter you have in the here, right? So let's run this. You see it says hello world. Now again, as you can see, right, it is directly running the file, right? It is not generating any compiled code, but remember, it is all happening within, right? It is all happening internally, which is not exposed to the users, right? So it is happening this way. Now what we'll do now is right now, if you see, right, writing this code and then again and again coming on this line, right, to run it could be, I mean, when you're learning, right, when you're learning Python, you need an easier way to run files. Okay, you need an easier way to run files. Now if you would see, right, currently you might see this play button here, right, run code. But if you would but if you are starting fresh on VS Code, you might not see this play button. This play button came because of a reason. What was that reason? The reason is that I added an extension. Okay, and that is my recommended approach. Please add that extension in your VS Code so that you can work with the Python library. Okay, I mean, by running this, I mean, so that you can run the Python code. So what you have to do is go to this extension tab right over here, click on this, and here search for Python. Search for Python. And what we'll do is, you see this here, right, Python, this one, not any of these. This is coming from Microsoft directly, right? This extension. What you should do is go and install this. When you install this extension, right, along with it, it installs a lot of other extensions with it. Like what? It installs this Python debugger, it installs this pylons and Python environment. So all of these extensions would also be added in your VS Code, and together they will help you to run your Python code very well. Okay, you can just read the documentation if you are interested to do so. You can get it from here also, that it downloads these many extensions for you: pylons, Python debugger, and Python environment. So all of these are automatically added to your VS Code if you download this extension, and this is what we need. Okay, now once you do this, right, maybe you might not see this. So to see this, close your VS Code and open it again. Okay, open it again. Then what you can do is, now let's run this, right? You will see this button. Okay, now one more thing before I run it, right? Now, as I said, right, my machine can have multiple Python versions: 3.13, 3.11, 3.12, right? Any of that. Now if I run this, which version of Python is it running, right? which version of Python it is using to run this code. Now to make sure like you are using what you intend to use, what you can do is in the bottom of this VS code, right, you will see this kind of one thing, right, where it highlights like which kind of Python version you're using. So if you select on this, right, select on this, you will it will open this interpreter box, right, where it shows you all the interpreter available on my machine, right. Currently it is set to use this one 3.11.1, but let's say I don't want to use it, right, I don't want to run it with this older version. I can see there is, it also has it was able to auto detect the version which I have just installed on this machine, which is the latest version 3.13.7. You can just choose this, select this, and you will find that this got selected to this, right, 3.7 3.13.7. Now if you run your code now, right, from here, it is going to use this interpreter, right, to run your code, and this is what you get, the world, right, this is what you get as a hello world. Okay, great. So what did we understood today, right? We understood like what is Python, right? How do you download Python? We understood like what is the process in converting in running your Python code, right? You generate your file with .py. If you in the if you look it right, if you I mean what is visible to it looks like that .py file is given to the interpreter and it runs it and just executes that on the machine, right. So there is just one step process. You create a file, you give it to interpreter and it runs it. No, what is happening behind the scene is, what is happening is that .py file is given to the compiler first. It generates a bytecode which is not shown to you, and that bytecode is then given to the pvm, which then executes, right. Now another concept which we learned is that we need to understand that when you're downloading Python, right, the distribution, you're downloading a C Python distribution, right, which is the default distribution which is used across the world by everyone. Okay, and that is the preferable one. If you have some other needs, right, which is not fulfilled by C Python, right, then you can look for other alternative for it like Jython, PyPy and others. But for our case, C Python suffices our need and we are good with it. Okay, now the last part, we need to write the code. What editor we are using? We are using this VS Code editor, right, and I showed you like you can just create a py file, gets this extension added and run the file. Now the last thing for today, right, if you see this, right, if you see this code, I am writing print hello world, right. Now think of it in terms of Java, right. If you have a Java code, let me create a Java file. Let me just write uh, demo.java. Okay, let me create a Java file. Okay, I can get a Java file here also, right. I can get any kind of file. I can create a .js file also. Let me just file also. Okay, js demo.js, right. I can create, it's a JS file, it's a Python file, it's a Java file. Okay, now we have already seen how if I have to run this kind of code, right, if I have to run this kind of code in Python, I have to write this. If I have to write a similar code in JavaScript, what should I write? Again, it is simple there as well. You can just write console.log, console.log, and you can just say the world, hello world, right. You can do this. Great, you can do this and it will work. Let me show you if you don't believe me. So you can see, right, your editor is smart enough, it was able to detect, right, the file which it has, and it has changed the mechanism which will run now. If I run this, you will see that this also gets executed. It says hello world. It is running jsdemo.js file, right. And in case of Python, it was, if I switch to this, it switches to this Python, and if I run it, it runs this file called my file dot to dot py, right, and it runs the result from here, hello world from Python. Let me just say from Python, say hello world from JS. Okay, now it might look like that Python and JS are giving similar capabilities, right, that you do not have to do lot of, see, if I have to generate this kind of output using Java, what you will have to do? You will have to do a lot of things. You will have to first of all create a class, right. You create a class called demo, right, demo class with the same file, right. You will do something like this, and then you will write a method called public static void main, public static void main, right? Here you will write string args, and then here you will write, okay, uh, system dot out dot println, and here you will say hello world from Java, right? You will do something like this. Now if you see this, right, this you created a class and all that, but now to run this file, what do you have to do? Now see this, right? This is my class. Let me just call it as public class, right? Now if you just look at the code itself, right? To achieve this kind of programming, right, you have to write these line of codes, 4 or 5 lines of code, okay, and you have to create a class, then you have to create a function, right, a method inside this where you will write what exactly you wanted to run. Whereas in case of Python, right, you do not need you do not need to create a class, you do not need to create a function. You can just directly come and write this line of code and it will work, right, and it will work. Similarly for JS demo, right, I mean for JS also this looks same, right? Although when it comes to JS, right, you have to understand a lot more, because when it comes to async and all, right, things get drastically changed because of how JS functions. We already have the lectures of JS already in place. We're trying to learn Python, but okay, let me, but again, right, Python is much more easier than JS. Let me just say it upfront. Okay, it's a very free language, so free style of writing. So in even I mean, let me just first achieve this. So if you see this Java code, right, you have to write 4 lines of code. Now if I have to run this code, right, it cannot run as is. First of all, it cannot run as is. It needs to be compiled. How to compile the code? Let's do one thing. Let's go to the terminal, and this is fs python a, right? What I will do is, let me try. I will write javek, and I will give the file name demo.java. Sorry, demo.java. Let's see what does it do. You see this? It created this bytecode file, right? Dot class file. It has to generate this file, otherwise it will not work. It will not work, right? Now if you want to run this file, right, demo.class, what you will do? Now compiler did its job, right? It created that dot class file. Now what you have to do is, you have to now run this file, right? So for doing that, you will say Java, and then you will say demo and run. And you say hello world from Java. So see the complexity, right? See the complexity in writing this simple text. I mean, just to print this line. In case of Java, you have to, first of all, you have to write multiple lines of code. You have to stuff it into a function, then into a class, and then the next process is you have to compile it to you need to compile the code to this thing, right, to dot class file, and then you can execute that, right? In the end you can execute that right? So think of it, right? Why people, I mean, people coming from the colleges, right, or people wants, I mean, who do not want to have that headache of understanding everything and putting a lot of things around just to achieve this part, they would they I would recommend them, right, start with Python as your first language, right, who are starting their journey. But for us who are older enough in the industry, I would say, right, we have to understand all three. We cannot live without it. But wherever you are in your journey, right, at least master one language, right? But again, I'm trying to give a comparison here, right? Now you can see, right, in case of JS there was no compiled code generated. In case of Py, there was no compiled code generated. When it will come to TS files, in case of TS files are compiled to JS first and then they execute. Okay, so again, that's a different thing. But again, coming back to Python here, right? Now if you, I'm sure you understood the difference between this and this, right? Python and Java. Let me try to bring one difference between JS and Python. Now if you see, right, in case of JS, right, if I have to create a variable, right, if I have to create a variable, what JS says is, right, you have to declare that variable, right? You have to declare that variable by telling, either using let or const, right? You can just say let, let's say let name equals to Akhil. Let me just write here Akhil from pot test. Akhil from pot test. Okay, I have to do this, right? And now if I want to print this, what I can do, I can just write name here, right? And then I can run it. Let me just run it. Does it run? Yes. Hello JS, hello world from JS, Akhil from podcast, right? It prints this one. Now, if I have to do the same thing in Python, right, what will I do? What we can do is, what we have not understood the template string, so I will not go there, but let me just try to do this. What you can do is, you do not need to create let, const or where, right? You just simply create name equals to Akhil. Okay, so what does it mean? It means you can just create a variable, right? And let me just print this, print name. Now run this, sorry, not semicolon, let this run this file. You see this? You see, it was able to execute. It was able to execute. I mean, this is the normal. I mean, this is the normal way of working in Python. You do not need to declare your variable. But whereas in case of Java, in JavaScript, right, there is a check that you have to declare your variable. Okay, and again there are so many other checks, right? This is just for an example. Okay, I'm just trying to draw a comparison between JS and Python also. Okay, so again, I'm trying to emphasize here is that Python is a very free flowing language, right? Okay, it is, you are able to achieve a lot of things by writing very small number of lines of code. Okay, that is what my that is what I'm trying to portray here. Okay, and that is what is required, right, when you have to work with third party packages, right, like langchain, like the current evolving libraries, right, which are being used for uh, the for creating the AI application, right, where you're able to write everything, you're able to achieve so much things, right, in less number of lines. So using Python, you're able to achieve the same thing in 3 4 lines, whereas in case of Java or JavaScript, you would be able to achieve it in maybe 20 lines or 50 lines, right? So see the kind of the power which Python will provide you. Okay, and this is the reason, right, that Python is so popular, and people are using across everywhere, right? But again, if you would ask me in the estate domain, right, the still the Java was the king, but currently I would say JavaScript or TypeScript is ruling. Okay, and Python is like a helper kind of a thing for us as of now. But seeing the evolution of AI and everything, right, this is a language which we should also add into our kitty. Okay, and this is the starting point for your AI journey. That's why I'm starting with Python as a library, as a language to teach. Okay, so I hope you were able to understand what I wanted to portray here, and I think that's it, right? This is what I wanted to share for today. We'll meet tomorrow again, and I will share the details like how we'll connect tomorrow. Okay, seeing the struggles which we faced today for the live class. I hope you liked this session, and if you did, if you can give a thumbs up on the chat so that I can know that, yeah, this was meaningful for your time, and then we can close the call. Or if you have any queries, please put it in your chat. If I can answer, I will try to answer my best. Great, great. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you so much, and we'll meet tomorrow. Okay, we'll meet tomorrow, and tomorrow I will try to show you maybe I will see like whether we will follow this approach of meeting, or maybe I can also share the Google Meet invite. Okay, for the people who wanted to attend, because it might have some struggle over here. I don't know. I'm not sure, but let's see. Okay. So yeah, keep looking for my post on LinkedIn. I will update you guys. Thank you so much for today. We'll meet tomorrow. Okay. Bye bye. Take care.